Hi, my name is Greg Canty, and I'd like to welcome you to the Win Happy podcast. I love chatting to people from all walks of life about their lives and their careers, about the choices they make along the way to pursue their happiness, and what winning actually means to them. I hope you enjoy these conversations as much as I do. Thanks for listening. On today's podcast, I had the privilege of speaking with Irish actor Diarmuid Noyes, the co-lead of the movie Christy, which has been winning awards in Ireland and abroad, and rave reviews from critics everywhere. Diarmuid plays the character Shane in the movie brilliantly, as he wrestles with the job of trying to steer his brother Christy on the right path, and at the same time not to derail his own life. Diarmuid talks in detail about the huge preparation that goes into getting a part like this right, the process around the whole movie, and the special bond that has grown between the novice actors and the more experienced actors like himself and Emma Willis, who played his wife Stacey in the movie. He's been acting since he was 9 years of age, a career shaped in many ways by a crush on Mary Kate Olsen and personal circumstances, and even now he still finds this crazy profession quite the challenge. Diarmuid is extremely humble, finds praise a difficult thing to accept, and for some strange reason, he gives himself too hard a time. Yes, Diarmuid, you are a brilliant actor. Let's hear from Diarmuid. Christy opens in Irish cinemas on the 29th of August and in Britain from the 5th of September. Diarmuid Noyes, a huge welcome to the Win Happy podcast. How are you doing?
Hello. It's a long time coming. We've been talking about doing this for probably about two, 3 years.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's lovely to finally be sitting here with you.
And it's important to see those things through, you know. It's easy to go, oh yeah, you're an actor, you know. Would you come on my podcast? Would you come on the Win Happy podcast and talk about your life and your career? Because I'm sure, isn't that right, Diarmuid, that people will be really interested?
Well, what were we just talking about there now, Greg?
Exactly.
You can't find anything about me on the internet, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Well, nothing personal anyway, which is nice to hear. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can let the work speak for itself, you know.
That's very profound. Other than a few bare bones pieces of information and things that you've been in, little enough really about the person.
Which I like. It's nice to hear.
You see, you shouldn't tell me things, which is what I like, because that's curiosity for me now, you know.
Well, you can pick away. I'm glad to answer anything.
Now you're after lifting the first stone. Okay, so we're fresh off the 37th Galway Film Fleadh Festival, and Christy kind of wiped the boards, didn't it?
It was certainly the talking point, I think, of the festival. Yeah, it was quite. I mean, I can only give it from my perspective, which was quite overwhelming, and people constantly coming up and talking to me about it, and they all just had lovely things to say. But yeah, I mean, we won the best film of the Fleadh, and I think we won the hearts really of a lot of people. So it was really nice to be part of it. You know, it was a lovely weekend. And
for the listeners, what was your part in it?
I played Shane, so I'm the co-lead with Danny Power, who plays Christy, and the film it centres on me and Christy's Shane and Christy's relationship, and kind of what's not said between Irish males and family, and you know, estranged family, and it's all about connection and love and wanting to fit in and wanting connection. So I think it resonated with a lot of people. Yeah, it went down well.
So put me inside you, Diarmuid, you know, approaching an event like that, sitting there watching it, knowing that obviously you're watching yourself, which must be a weird out-of-body experience for normal people, you know, obviously not for gifted actors. But What's it like? What's it like for you being there and all the razzmatazz around it and being shown in a film festival? You're waiting to see the reaction of the Irish audience. Yeah, I know, of course, any ideas about winning it or not winning it are probably very secondary. When you were sitting there, tell me what it's like to be you sitting there. What's running through your head and what are you feeling?
I've been acting professionally since I was 9 years old. So, I've had many times at the Galway Film Flat as a spectator, and then also just, not being, in any big films or anything like that at it. So to have that type of part in a film, in a dramatic film like that, with such a reaction and just on the town hall screen, that was a huge deal for me. That was a bucket list moment. So that was huge. And then to see the kids who are now adults from the cabin crew, and it all started off with that, really. And me personally, I haven't really said this really, but my personal kind of motivation all the time when I started the short on Christy up until the feature then as well, and on through it, was really just to have everyone see the cabin crew. They're just so fantastic, and to see those personalities on screen, that was what I really, we were just championing that the whole time. So it is really about them. But for me personally, it was really overwhelming, and there was imposter syndrome on my end, and a lot of excitement and a lot of felt love. Yeah. So it was kind of just like a blur, after the screening. It was just a lot of talking to a lot of people and just really lovely conversations and creative conversations. And definitely a few drinks had as well. And but it was just really, I never thought it would be that exhausting and overwhelming, But it was a really good problem to have,
Why is that so exhausting? Is it because you are looking at yourself and it's a weird experience? Does it draw something out of you, or?
Yeah, it's really afterwards. It's afterwards, just talking to everyone, and I tend to give a lot to a person when I'm talking to them, when I'm listening to them, or so just giving a lot myself the whole night, But in terms of watching myself on screen, kind of used to that now over the years, I used to hate it. I used to absolutely hate it. And I got to a point maybe in 2010 when I kind of learned to separate myself from the character or from what I'm looking at on screen, so I can see myself from a third person. So I could always watch. I did it so I could watch rushes, or I could watch playback on sets, and I could kind of tweak what I was doing if needed be or whatever, and not judge myself. So I'm kind of good at that now. But that was all exciting and lovely to watch. And then afterwards, we had like a 5-minute standing ovation and a lot of people screaming, and that didn't sit well with me. I didn't know how to deal with that. I was kind of just got awkward, and I turned to Brendan on the stage, the director, and I was like, what do we do? Brendan just through the side of his mouth was like, just stand here and take it. So I was like, oh God, okay. So yeah, it's just it doesn't sit well with Irish people in general, I don't think, praise or success or anything, we all kind of struggle with it.
In a way, though, you think you'd be more used to the spotlight than he would. And he actually said to me, I was chatting to him at the weekend, and he was saying, I was telling him I reached out to you, and he was like, I think Diarmuid felt really awkward about it. Obviously, it's one of the goals, or one of the ways to feel, okay, I'm making progress here. But when it comes your way, you're standing up there. That feels kind of crappy, does it?
Yeah, I think it's because like for years as a kid, as a child actor, I longed for it for so long, That wasn't really my motivation for years, was praise and wanting to be famous and wanting all the success and the glory, And then, you redefine your relationship with acting as you get older then, I'm 37 now, and it's the process is the result for me, and it's all about just the work now, and creating. So when we finally got that moment of like a lot of people loving it, and it just brought up this thing inside me, this thing that I guess I've been, that old child that had been pursuing that for so long, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to accept it. And everyone's been saying it to me for years. Anytime somebody says well done in a job or a performance, I'll always kind of deflect it to another person in the film, or, and a lot of my friends or anyone else I know in the industry, they'll just be like, "Will you just take the compliment, will you?" I'll be like, "Okay." And I'll just be like, "Thank you." So yeah, the whole weekend I was just saying to people, I don't accept praise well, but thanks so much, instead of, rubbing up somebody the wrong way by deflecting their compliment or whatever. So it was really lovely though.
Is that being awkward in receiving compliments, or is there part of you that actually dislikes it?
No, it's not disliking it. It's awkward in receiving. It's feeling I don't deserve it. That's what it is. It's imposter syndrome, but it's not disliking it, as opposed to just feeling I don't deserve it. I think because there's so many of us out there, actors, and amazing Irish actors out there. We all kind of, every time we see each other, we don't really compliment each other, or we all kind of struggle with the same thing. I think a lot of Irish actors. So and I think it's the same with musicians as well. A lot of Irish musicians. I don't know about anywhere else, but anyone's I've ever been around, when they see someone else in the arts, or you give them any kind of compliment, you can see they get really awkward about it and change the subject very quickly. So yeah.
And I'm not even sure if it's possible for you to answer this, but objectively, when you watch the film, it's a great film.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And objectively, can you at this point in time say, yeah, I really brought something really, really special to that film?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd last this long as an artist, as an actor, if I didn't have some sort of confidence,
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely, but it's not just me. I mean, it's 100% a collaboration, and what Brendan very much changed me as an actor on that job, as opposed to me trying to perform and please, give a whole presented package as an actor, as a character. It was very much trusting in the unknown and just like trusting that, it's out of your control. And I've kind of I've changed that now. I'm not trying to please anymore or anything as an actor on any other job I've done recently. And it's a lot more simple and more relaxed, my approach towards it. So a lot of it would be in Brendan's hands as well, because he seems to live his life that way. So I kind of took that on board, that very kind of everything's going to be okay kind of thing. I've always had issues with trusting, in my life and trusting that everything's going to be okay, and acting and in performing. And after working with Brendan and living with Brendan for a little bit, his life is very much in just trusting in life, So yeah, so a lot would go to him. But yeah, I definitely, I put a lot of hard work into it, into the role. Long question short, yes, I do see. I can see what I've given to it, and I can see that it's a fantastic film, and that I did put the work in as an actor and gave something to it,
Objectively, so can you say, yeah, I did great work there?
Yeah, absolutely. But I still see moments. Like, funnily enough, everyone was talking about, I thought my weakest performance in the whole film was the moment when I come to the bonfire.
Yeah.
And everybody's been talking about that moment, apparently, saying it's beautiful. And another director came up to Brendan afterwards and he said, that's your film right there, that moment. And I was just like, what? Like, in my head, that's the weakest performance, but, that's me projecting, So.
Yeah. Why did you think that was a bad moment, out of interest? And it's funny, I'm talking to you about the film and you go all in there and tell me about your weakest moment. This boy has issues.
Yeah, it's just, I had an idea in my head of how I was going to perform it, and I didn't get to it, But I think less is more, I guess, you know what I mean? And I think that's what worked for it. I wanted it to be more dramatic and in my head, and I never really got there. But I think what's on it is exactly what Brendan wanted, possibly. So,
Yeah. So let's go the opposite side now. What was your best moment?
For me, let me see. What's my favorite moment? That's really hard. I don't know. I can't really. I'm finding it hard to get one. Probably. That's such a hard question.
but the worst moment was an easy one for you. That was like, here I go, boom.
That's something, doesn't it?
Yeah, so maybe if we do this in reverse, if I kept on asking your next worst moment, eventually we get to the best moment, which was the last thing you'd mention, and you can't remember any more about the movie.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Christ. Yeah.
In a funny way, Diarmuid, and I know directly after the premiere in Berlin, way back in February, I was asking you this question about you working with a lot of first-time actors or very, very new actors. Yeah. And they rely on you so much because you're sort of like an anchor. I know there are a few experienced actors in the movie, but you and the others, you were real anchors for the likes of Danny and a lot of the kids in the cabin and Boney and all that kind of stuff. And I presume Brendan trusted the anchors for the movie to carry all the other stuff. Did you feel that responsibility, during the movie?
It was more of it was less a responsibility, more of a something I got to do. I was really, really very humbled and privileged to be able to kind of be somewhat of, if you want to call it an anchor, and it was kind of more of, I wouldn't tell anybody what to do or anything, but, Brendan might come to me privately or something and ask me something or, and it was just more I've just learned over the years, shut up, do your work, and just, if someone does look to you or you lead by just example, by action. That's it, Yeah. And if anyone does have any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer them on set or anything, but I don't ever try to tell people what to do or, I think it's just unprofessional and, it can make people second guess themselves then on set. I think there should be one voice really, and that's Brendan's at the end of the day on the set. But we did have, we were more of a family on this. So we could really be, off the set and stuff, we could definitely talk to each other and give each other advice on life. And Boney would always be, he would reach out to me, worried about scenes or worried about anything. He was, in terms of acting, and he wasn't going to, he was really iffy about playing the role. And after we rehearsed, he said, after working with me and Emma and Danny, and he really felt so comfortable, and it was this huge creative experience. So that really, really made him want to do it. And I'm so delighted it did, because he killed it in it. He was so good. It was his first acting experience. And then the likes of Danny and Lewis and all, we'd all just, and actually Boney would help me with the accent as well. So I'd call Boney and he would, if I had any, because I'd always kind of come up with scenarios, loads of different scenarios that I could use for improv in each scene in case we went that way. So I'd always have kind of little tricks up my sleeve. So I'd always ask Boney, what would you call like your girlfriend in your slang or in this scenario, or what would you say in this scenario? So I'd always have little stuff to rely on. So he was great that way. So we're all helping each other out, But then in terms of the younger lads, we'd always be texting at night or stuff, and we still do, even after the film, and anyone ever needs advice, or because the thing is, like, a lot of actors don't like giving advice, but like I've been a child actor since I was 9 years old, and I grew up. The transition from child actor to adult actor was horrific for me because I had nobody to give me advice. People just think you're going to be fine, and it goes from people telling you what to do as a child actor to suddenly within a year, you're expected to show up on set and know what you're doing. And so it goes from directors telling you where to stand and what your character's going to do to suddenly you have to be telling them where you're going. And I really struggled with that. So anytime I see it within another actor who's kind of transitioning or I'm always happy to reach out and help them, so it was nice to be able to kind of just be there for the lads, lads and lassies on Christy.
How did the child actor come about?
I was 9 years old and I had done an acting class in school. I think I did a play in school, and then I went into acting classes afterwards, so I enjoyed it. And then I fancied Mary Kate Olsen at the time, and I thought in my head. So someone in my acting class in school told me about the Betty Ann Norton Theatre School, and I thought, well, if I go to that theatre school, I'll get to Hollywood and I'll get to go out with Mary Kate Olsen. So that was kind of my original motivation. So apparently I went up to my mum and I asked her, would she put me in that school? So she did. And very quickly, the reality dawned on me that that's not what's going to happen. And I had to do loads of exams and in the drama school. But within a month of being in the drama school, I got into the Gate Theatre in a play there. And then each year that play would come back. And then I got one or two other plays in the Gate. So, and a lot of the best theatre actors from Dublin were in those plays. And so I learned from just being around them and watching them. And then when I was about 18, I got a bit too old for that school. And Vincent Lamb had an agency called Young Artist Management, and he put me in that and got me to see if he could get me some work because he's my best friend. And I was kind of in the limbo, and then Maureen Hughes cast me in a TV show. And then that's where I transitioned then into, I got my adult agent and then transitioned into being an adult actor,
Tell me, your mum and dad, what were they up to? Were they any connection whatsoever to anything like this industry-wise?
No, nothing. No, my mum was amazing. And my mum and dad separated when I was just before I went into acting. So I'm sure there was some sort of trauma-related thing where it filled the void, being around in theatre was like the family for me, and the directors being the dad figure. But yeah, so he had left when I was 8, I think, and then I didn't see him again until I was about 16. So he kind of disappeared for a while and then came back into my life when I was 16. So my mum was very much a single mother. My mum and my granny raised me, and my mum was just working really, really hard and trying to get the money to support my acting. So she just brought me everywhere and just was killing herself to support me. And my granny then was also bringing me around and getting all the costumes for everything. And so I owe them the world, So yeah, but no one else. I think just my dad, my granddad did some amateur acting, but that was it. I was the only actor in the family, apparently.
Yeah, and that whole thing with your mum and your dad, I presume that was fairly traumatic at the time, was it?
Oh yeah, massively. A lot of sadness and darkness, deep down. Which is still there. I did a lot of therapy on it, so I kind of started therapy when I was about 14, and kept doing it, and up to this day, So I'm always working on myself. But my dad came back into my life when I was 16, and then we ended up forming a great relationship, with each other up to this day. But yeah, that trauma is still there. Yeah. And probably, I'd say if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have gone into acting, if he hadn't left. I probably would be doing something else, I'd probably be in the army, actually, I think, do something like that. Because he was a very much big into, he was an Irish patriot, my dad, and very much into Irish sports and the army and anything, So I probably would have been a GA player or in the army or something like that. So yeah, thank God my dad left.
That's very precise alternative walk of life or whatever. Yeah, so in our case, I separated from Brendan's mother when Brendan was 6 and Ellen about 3. And it is very traumatic. It's very traumatic for children. And I've spoken about this a number of times on the podcast when that kind of topic comes up a little bit. And, you know, people break up and this, that, and the other, and it's just a fact of life. But the impact on kids is huge. And I've heard it said, you know, many, many times, oh, well, you know, kids are resilient. And I always reject that. And my own opinion is that kids aren't very good at communicating. And that they're certainly feeling it. They don't have the words and the thought process to be able to vocalize it properly and work through it. So while they mightn't be freaking out, it certainly and absolutely has an impact. And for anyone who's going through that or, you know, with their own children and their own families and everything, just be so careful and bear in mind that just because the kids aren't saying stuff, that doesn't mean it's not hurting. And
I mean, they're soaking it in constantly.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I mean, and it's not even, it doesn't have to be a huge traumatic experience or a black and white thing. It can be, you know, just not, like, for example, not getting, let's say your parents are arguing and all you need in that moment as a child is, you know, you're on the periphery and you're not being included. And all you need is the parent to just say, are you okay? Or pick you up, or just be, it's okay. And, you know, they might turn to you, and then you crying might remind them that there's something wrong with the relationship. So all you might get, instead of what you need as emotionally as a child, they might just say, oh, what's wrong with you? You know? And that can just, that can fuck you up for years, you know? Because then you close off and you feel, you know, as an adult, then you move on, you feel it's not good to ask or show what I want emotionally. It's weakness, or it's, you know what I mean? So it can be all those small little moments over the years. So, and the parents could still be together, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a breakup or, you know. So kids are very, very sensitive, and they carry it with them, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, of course they do. And the other thing, suddenly you're different because mum and dad aren't there. You know, you've got the, oh, where's your dad or whatever, and, you know, he's not at the side of a football pitch or whatever, or coming to a gig or coming to one of your shows. And
do you know the thing, Greg, that changed for me massively? It was so interesting. I was in London, and it was 2010, and it was before I was about to have probably a meltdown. I was really stressed out in London, and I didn't know where to turn or what to do. And I remember just calling my dad for some reason. I was just like, I'm just going to call my dad. And I called him that night, and I was just like, oh, Dad, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm freaking out. And for the first time ever, he'd never said it before. He said, you know, I love you, don't you? And it just changed everything for me. I was just like, whoa, like he'd never said it to me. And then someone else told me the same thing happened to them. They told their son for the first time in about 25 years, you know, I love you. And apparently it just changed everything for him. And it lifted something for him. And the same for me, you know. So it's interesting, yeah.
You probably didn't believe it, did you?
I did believe it, yeah.
Oh no, but up until that moment.
No, I never would have believed it. No, until it happened, yeah. You know, and yeah. But yeah, no, that's all good. But yeah, it seems it's so powerful, you know, just telling people in your life that you love them.
Yeah, I'm reading Bono's book at the moment, and his mum dying when I think he was 14 was hugely traumatic. And I guess in a way when your dad went, it was probably like a death in many respects when they went away. Actually, this is really funny. I was talking to an A&R guy with one of the big record companies, and he's representing really, really talented artists. And we were all having this conversation about the family circumstances, and he said in nearly every single case, something traumatic has happened with that individual that ends up sparking or opening a door to a bit of creativity that other people just wouldn't have, or they wouldn't be able to access, maybe a bit of deep sorrow or some shock, but it does open something creatively that a lot of people who haven't had those experiences just never get to experience. That doesn't happen.
I think our default setting or something, tends to, it's not necessarily where we're happiest, but it tends to lie in that area. So some sort of area that is, I guess, we're more comfortable being uncomfortable or something, or we're more, I know I'm definitely not, but some people seem to be, but it's more kind of like, there's a lot more battles going on inside or something, I think the mind tends to, for me anyway, my mind tends to, in terms of type of escape, it goes into a lot more imagination and it turns a lot faster. So it lends itself to more creativity, to escape the trauma that's going on in my belly,
And you're a successful actor. We're talking about the accolades now that are coming your way from these great performances. In a weird way, this might be a really stupid question to ask you, but would you have preferred not to have had those shocks and those doors to a really interesting life and career not to have opened, and that you are in the army serving, doing your thing? And
absolutely not. I mean, the question is, and it's nothing against the army. Jeez, I was half thinking of joining the Defence Forces a couple of years ago, the reserves. My friend is in the army, one of my best friends. But I would prefer, it's that classic thing of, is ignorance bliss, and or would you prefer to know more about the world or know more about life and risk and being unhappy? And that's where I would lie. I prefer to risk, and I think that's really the job of the artist as well, is to whether it makes you unhappy or not. It's about looking into those aspects of life and then shining the mirror or presenting that to everyone else who's kind of doing the 9 to 5, or they come home and then they can get some sort of reflection on life or some sort of something on television. It's, I think, something that we're good at, because a lot of trauma babies who are in the arts, I think we spent a lot of time on the fringes anyway, in families maybe, looking at parents fighting or watching things. So that's kind of what we're good at, shining the light.
Yeah, you're open to different experiences. Did Brendan ever tell you about 7 Brides and 7 Brothers? Ah, come on, Diarmuid.
No.
How do you not know this?
What's this?
Okay, so I've been busy, probing you as to how the doors opened on this, fantastic career and different things. And you were saying it, in some ways, maybe that came about because of those life experiences. So Brendan, if you could imagine going through all of that stuff as well, and, a bit of bullying going on in school, and he wanted to be a soccer coach. And he comes in to me one day, and he's in transition year in secondary school. He says, "Yeah, Dad, there's a school play, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers." And I'm like, "Oh, Jesus. So are you going to be moving chairs in the set, or building stuff like that, or turning lights on or off, or pulling the curtains open or down?" I have no idea. My son, "No, Dad, I'm one of the brothers." I'm like, "What? Are you for real?" This is just like mind-blowing. And
what age was he? Transition year?
Yeah, so transition year. 15 18? Maybe, would it?
15, right.
Yeah. So I could kind of like, this is just... And he is buzzing. He's telling me about the fun that they're having. And suddenly, he's hanging around with a different circle of people. The guys who are interested in, someone has a camera and he might make his own movie and this, that and the other. And suddenly they're fooling around, and Brendan, wants to buy a camera and he wants to film stuff and all that kind of thing. And he's doing little mini movies. And then it came to the Christmas performance of 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. It was brilliant. And there he is wearing his lumberjack shirt, performing and dancing and all this kind of stuff. And of course, the circle of people, it wasn't just the footballers anymore. And he was a really great footballer. So that was all good. But it just opened doors. So the camera then came with I need a laptop for editing, Dad.
The money start coming in. Or going out, shall I say.
Exactly. So all these pieces start fitting together. Then he wanted to do multimedia in college. And I was huge into my music, and I had the music stores and everything. So he's listened to music a lot of the time. So he's got a great intuition around, I think, film and music and putting those things together.
And then where did the record label come from? Like, when did that come? What age was he when that came?
Yeah, he will tell you that he started watching Grand Theft Auto. You know, the PlayStation game or whatever.
The game, yeah.
Yeah, and they used to have really, really cool soundtracks. So he was always listening to music when he came over to our place, and we'd know a lot of people in that industry and stuff, so we'd be introducing him. So he was bending his way towards music. And then, so his the big expression of his craft used to be the music videos. And he'd be filming and he put music together. And Vimeo used to do a staff favorite. They used to put the staff pics on the homepage of Vimeo.
On the homepage,
His videos were being shown one after the other. And then that led him to the Hosier thing, and bang, bang, bang. You know, here we are today. So that's where all that kind of came about. So the moment where you realised, you know, with that light on you on stage, kind of, wow, I like this.
That was actually when I was 5. I was 5 years old. And it was before I even joined acting school. I remember I used to, bad parenting, but I used to be watching movies I should never have been watching at 5 years old, but like Alien and different like over 18s films, you know. But I remember I was in a Superman costume. It's weird that I had a dream about this last night, and I'm saying this to you now. This is very strange. I was in a Superman costume, and I was jumping up and down on the couch in my old house, and I just remember looking at the TV and saying to myself, I'm going to be a movie star someday. That's what I said. And that was the moment. That was when I dedicated my life to it. And I hadn't even joined an acting class yet, you know. And that was after kind of a couple of years of therapy. That memory came back to me. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, weird. But obviously then it changed over the years, you know, from wanting to do the movie star thing is kind of, it's not really on my agenda anymore. It's more just creating, you know.
Okay, and are they the words of someone who has been in the industry for a while?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've had a lot of peaks. You've been involved in a lot of things that were potentially giving you an awful lot of attention, and I think they did. And did you just decide at some point, okay, that's really not what it's cracked out to be? Or
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of, I'd seen it in loads of interviews before. A lot of people who've made it become famous, like on the Actor Studio, that show back in the day, they were just like, look, it's if you're only acting to be famous, it's not enough. And I was young and I was like, bullshit. It's easy for you to say, you know, you're there. And then when you're around a lot of famous people or you're working, like I've had the fortune of working with some stars and some actors I'd look up to over the years, then you realize it is actually, it's all just hot air and has nothing to do with the actual work, you know. And it seems to be, it just gets in the way of a lot of their lives. So I have no interest really.
Yeah, and who are the real stars that you've worked with? And I don't mean the ones on lights, but the people we might hear about, but you would really respect because it is all about the craft.
In terms of actors, John Doman is one in the US. He's been, and he gave up acting he was in a sales job. I think it was sales. And I think it was like at the age of 40, he decided he wasn't happy anymore. I'm going to get into acting. And he gave everything up, all the money and everything, and started all again. And it was the best decision he ever made. And he is one of those people, I did a show with him for 3 years. He was the lead in it. And he just led by example. Like not one moan out of him, not, you know, never caused an issue. He just, and that, I think for him, that came from he served in Vietnam, you know, and he was, he's just the most humble, just salt of the earth, just get on with it, you know. And that was kind of, I learned a lot from that, but that's one. And Liam Neeson, you know, he was fantastic. He's a lovely fella. And there's so many, you know, and in terms of directors, Lenny Abrahamson, he was amazing to work with, you know. That was my first TV job. His presence it's a lot like Brendan's actually. Just there's something that emanates from them, and it's very like you realize, what am I rushing to, or what am I worried about, or you just become very present, and everything just kind of falls away, all your worries. And Brendan, and that'd be a lot of the greats you work with tend to have that. I think they don't really worry about the future or the past. They kind of just live in the moment, and whatever happens.
So in terms of the different roles you've played, are there any specifically that you've enjoyed more than others?
Oh yeah, there's three. So there's the most creative and enjoyable I've had to this point is Christy, is Shane. And Chris, that's been the most kind of, I wouldn't say life altering, but in terms of my craft and everything, that's been the most altering for me. So that's been amazing. It's very rare you get that amount of time to live a role and prepare for a role. We had a lot of time, like BBC just greenlit just the production of the script, the workshopping of the script for 2 weeks, and we got to live as the characters and delve right into the background of the characters, and then create improvs from that, and then create scenes that would eventually go into the script, and living with the accent and working on that accent. And then we had 2 weeks then when eventually a year later, when the film was greenlit, we had 2 weeks to rehearse again. So we were the characters at that point.
Is that needed, Diarmuid? I presume, to get the result.
It's the way film ideally should be, to have that space and time to really create. Because a lot of the time you're up against the clock and up against money, and it puts pressure on actors, it puts pressure on filmmakers, and you can smell it off the screen then, you can smell that desperation, or trying to figure out a way, second guessing what audiences are going to want. And then you're not making something that you want to make specifically as a filmmaker. You're making something that you think the audiences are going to want, out of speed and timing. And it just becomes about commerce. That's not really art, So yeah, to have that space, I mean, that's really a lot of that as well is I think why Christy is doing so well, because we had the space to really create and experiment. And we could do reshoots, and we did everything, so there was a lot of trust put into it.
There was a lot of improv along the way as well, wasn't there? And the new scenes were introduced.
Yeah, a lot of new scenes written, and then they locked down the script. But then, so we had our beats to hit within the script, but then how we got to those beats was also like, we were given the leeway to be loose, as long as we had the essence of the lines and stuff like that. So, Brendan loves surprises, and so each take was different, and and that's every actor's dream to work. If you're a film fan,
Yeah, there was a beautiful light scene in the movie with your wife, your on-screen wife,
Emma Willis, amazing actress.
A little kind of dance scene where she had to remind you of that you were still a romantic couple, even though you were busy with work. Actually, it mirrored life so much. You were busy just doing ends meet. You were a busy painter, decorator. And I think she reminded you that you were lovers for all of 10 minutes. And I think that was Emma, was it, that kind of nudged that along, or it was her idea?
Yeah. At one point during the workshopping of the script, she said, "Look, guys, I think we need something between Shane and Stacey to show that they don't hate each other, to show that there's some sort of, bond there, or soul, or there's still a spark. Otherwise we might fall into the trap of thinking the relationship's on the way out." So the lads were like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." So we improv'd a scene in the kitchen, and we just started talking about where we first went to, where we first met, and the people we knew back then, and just reminiscing on old times when we were younger, kind of more excited about life, as lovers, and then went into like a dancing scene, and then we kissed in the improv, and it was a beautiful scene, and the lads went off then and wrote this scene around it. So that was all Emma, because, and she said, I love it, after when we were shooting the film, I was joking with her, we were just slagging each other, but I said to her, "Oh, you just think you're great because you came up with that scene in the kitchen, And she said, "You know what? I'm glad I did, because without me in this film, it would just be a load of moody men.
Yeah.
As she said, it'd be like a fucking French film. And she's like, that would be the title of it, a fucking French film. But she was right, and the beautiful thing about that film is the women really, they're the pillar stones of everything in it. They keep everyone together. So yeah, it was important to have that connection and show that we still had that spark for each other.
What my experience of watching the film was, I've met a lot of you. I was there for a tiny bit of the filming, and you're being introduced to the characters. And from about 10 minutes in, it just gripped you emotionally, and it held you from that minute until the very end of the movie. It didn't let you go, and not once. You were taken through the light and the shade, the different characters. But I just felt emotionally. Now, over in Berlin, I've just seen it twice, which was that opening night in Berlin, and the performance the following night. And I cried like a baby. I thought it was beautiful. Funnily enough, when I'm describing it to people, I also describe that gorgeous scene with you and Christy, the hairdressing scene at the very, very end, and that conversation between the two grown men, the two boys. Even talking to you now, I swear to God, I'm getting a tiny bit emotional, because I don't know, is that me and my brother, or just men and that relationship between men? And of course, that hairdressing scene takes it into a different way, because it's a very intimate thing, isn't it? It's kind of weird. Yeah, what a gorgeous way to end that film. Oh my God, it was just beautiful.
Yeah, and I remember it was beautiful for us as well, because when we were shooting it, we had the script, it's a few lines, but we just kept rolling, and just at this point we all knew each other and how we like to work, and I love to just keep it rolling and just give loads of improv and surprises and stuff as well, and try and get something out of the other actor. And I just remember at one point some of those lines at the end that were used are improv. Like talking about her calling me Patch, and everyone calling me Patch, and Danny going, well, you're not gonna have a problem with me, all this kind of stuff. But at one point I remember just saying, I just switched and I said, Danny. It was on. They were turning to him. It was on him, and I was just like, Danny, look at me. And I just said it as Diarmuid, and I just said, look at me. I'm fucking proud of you, man. Everything you did. And I don't know if I think that might be the take they used in it. But I just remember him just looking at me and just going, thanks, Shane. And it really, it was something for me to be able to say to him as Danny, that I was so proud of him for everything he'd gone through in the film and everything he'd done in his life. And it was just a lovely moment between me and Danny, and also the characters. So there was a lot of real life mixing with art there,
Do you become Shane?
Yeah. For that one, I would stay in the corner and just record myself all the time, trying to keep the line, keeping the accent. Then I'd have fun with everyone as well. And, but I try to keep any of those moments in between takes, or the time I had, I would try to use it to work on keeping that accent and keeping in the character, but not overdoing it. So I'd have to keep that balance. And then, after we finish filming, then back to being me, but then Shane's still there, obviously. You're always walking around the city or going out for pints and taking little bits in that you can use in another scene or something that you see around you. And then it took a while to get out of it. Then I was quite depressed for 3 weeks, just, because it was a good 6 weeks of living that life. And it was such a privilege and fun, really creative. And then
Does it take a while to decompress from that then, does it?
Yeah, the last short I just did there, or maybe 2 shorts ago, we had an intimacy coordinator on it, but she really opened up my eyes. So she was talking about aftercare, and me growing up in my generation, we didn't have anything called aftercare, in the industry, and I would always struggle coming off jobs. But yeah, I think it's important for actors to be able to have some sort of system to really get back to normal life, or get back to that balance, because it's so unnatural and addictive, going to that level of trying to get into another person's life and or creating a life, on screen. And so, yeah, it can stick with you, and then suddenly there can be a void if you're not, careful when you come off a job, and that can stay with you for a while.
I remember being up at the shooting of Christy, and it was up the north side. Do you remember it was a scene that never actually made the movie in the end? It was outside a chipper.
Oh, yeah. I remember this, yeah.
I was just hanging around, and you were pacing up and down, walking past me. I don't know what particular line you were rehearsing, or whether it was a particular accent you were getting into. I remember thinking, wow, I can really see that deep effort that you have to go through to really just kind of nail that part. And then the bloody thing never gets used. And I'm sure the life of an actor is probably full of those types of moments and all of that preparation, is it?
Yeah, oh yeah, geez, yeah. It's there's so much hits the cutting room floor, a lot of it, and it's necessary to keep the film moving. But there's a lot of characters that get cut. You could put a lot of stuff into, if you're a supporting role and think you're going to be in it, and then you go see the film and there's nothing, and you've put everything into it. So, but I do remember that day, yeah. And wasn't that chipper? That was from your childhood as well, right?
Yeah. Well, at one point in my entrepreneurial career, I had a chipper stroke fast food restaurant called Munch House. So that was a little bit of a tribute to me, that Brendan said, you have to come up. There's a surprise when you get there. And like, what's going on here? That was the name of the chipper. You mentioned two other parts that meant a lot to you. Yeah.
The other one was Good Vibrations. That was another big one for me. I played it's about the punk scene in Belfast in the 70s. And I played a real life guitarist called Brian Young from the band Rudy. So I got to hang out with Brian, and he would take me around, and I'd learn his mannerisms and his accent. And so that was a real moment for me, because I never got to do that before with a real person, and really get into a character like that. So that was really, really creative. And then the third one then it was kind of more of a life-changing role for me in terms of just my life, that was a show called Borgia, about the Borgia family in Italy. I did that for 3 years, and Tom Fontana was the showrunner on that, and that was a big kind of thing for me, and we all became a big family, and we all became very, very close from that. So that was more of it was really, really creative, but it was just the stature of something like that was a different thing I'd never experienced before, and just where we got to travel and the people we worked with and met was a lot of love. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge series. And when something like that finishes 3 years in, that must be just traumatizing, is it?
That was hard. That was where I realized, right, you need to take care of it, because I was a couple of months depressed after that show. The way I worked before that was very much like on Christy. I would, really kind of just do everything to convince myself and that I was that character, and I'd live it a lot of the time. I'd jump in and out of it, but when you're on a long running show like that for 3 years, then you suddenly realize, like you're more times you're that character than you are yourself throughout the years. So you kind of start slotting in. And I got distant from my own mother, and, people in my life, and more close to the actual mother who was playing my mother and my friends, So I was like, God, this is interesting. So yeah, a lot of therapy later, and kind of found my balance, and, So fair play to Daniel Day-Lewis, I'll tell you that. To know how he does it. Jesus. So that was a lovely experience.
Most people who have a career, whatever job you punch in Monday to Friday, whatever, maybe you're working in a restaurant or a hotel, and that involves late nights or weekends and all that kind of thing. And I know you've got agents and people looking out for you and all that kind of stuff. But effectively, you're a self-employed person, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just go from gig to gig, and each project finishes, and then it's a case of waiting on the phone to ring for the next gig. Is that pretty traumatic?
Well, funny enough, it literally goes back to what we were talking about earlier, trauma.
Yeah.
traumatic, and your default setting, and not knowing when my father was going to come back,
Yeah.
and waiting on the unknown. So it's kind of my default setting, really, where I was kind of more comfortable, is kind of just not necessarily the happiest, but just waiting on not knowing, is kind of what maybe it might drive other people crazy, where it was kind of my default setting. So yeah, but it is still difficult. It is hard. Yeah, it's hard not to know. But I'll tell you something. I was doing 3 years there, coffee. I was working coffee jobs, and which I love coffee. I loved work, doing all the jobs, but just the 9 to 5 and knowing what you're doing for the rest of your life scares me. Like like my friend who's in the army, he's got a great life. He got married. They're happily married. They love each other. They've got the most amazing animals. They've got a lovely house, and he's got the best career in the army. And that just scares the shit out of me. Do you know what I mean? I'm running the opposite way, because I still love the chase, the dopamine chase, the adrenaline, and I'm still running from kind of the more mundane things of life. But funnily enough, that's where the best creative possibilities come from, is sitting in the mundane of everyday life, and that's really is all there is. So I struggle with that. I still run for the excitement and the big events, when, they are all hot air at the end of the day. So, yeah, I guess that's what really keeps me going, and it is the chasing the ghost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I remember after Berlin, I think it was after the premiere night, the film was amazing. We were as high as anything. I heard Dee talking to you, because, she absolutely fell in love with you in that movie. She was like, oh my God almighty. Yeah, who was she calling you? Yeah, he's like Al Pacino. He's like Al Pacino. Yeah, so it's kind of, but I remember she was chatting to you after, and she was saying how amazing you were, and you kind of played it down immediately. And I got a small sense from you that, listen, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been part of many, many occasions when everyone is on a high because they've just seen the premiere, but real life kicks in fairly quickly after. I think you even said to her, I'm not an actor, I'm a barista. You had some sort of a line. And was that a joke, or was it a defense mechanism, do you think?
It's a defense mechanism, but also it is kind of, truth in it, like, without going dark again, I'll go quickly into this, but I mean, I was nominated for an award there maybe 2 years ago. It was the IFTAs, and I just, the week just before we went to the awards, my uncle died, and it was the job the film I was up for, but the weekend that I auditioned for it, my grandmother died, and I was there when both of them were dying. So it put everything in perspective, that you can't take any of it with you, and most of us are going to end up in a nursing home, with it's all just memories. So it really did, I was sitting at the IFTAs, and I could see everyone so sad they didn't get an award, or worried, or, and I was just thinking, it's all just the icing on the cake. You know what I mean? Really all that, matters is the process, the work. So at Berlin, it was lovely, and it was a great experience, and I really loved it. And I got really overwhelmed again. I got really excited, but I was going back to work a coffee shop, when we came back. I think the day after, I was going back and back to the grindstone. There's nothing wrong with working a coffee shop. I loved it, but that was the reality, we're going back to audition, and we're only as good as our last job, So, if you carry that celebration for too long, you're patting yourself on the back too long, it kind of does yourself a disservice as well, So I try to just keep myself grounded when I can, I don't try to get too excited about things. A lot of it can be, I can use that, I guess you're right. It can be a kind of a self-defense mechanism as well of not taking praise,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, exactly. Tell me your best moment in the movie, and you say, well, the part I didn't like so much was, wow. Yeah, that's something else. What's happiness to you, Diarmuid?
I still don't know. Still discovering it. I think peace to me, contentment, is more silence, and I really like my own company. So that's a lot of contentment to me, having space and then to just work on things that I want to work on, I think, and having my own company. And maybe a dog or a cat. But that's it. Yeah. I mean, you can talk about the dream and all that kind of stuff, and living in LA in a nice house and working in the industry. But the reality of it is, the older I've gotten, just my own space and silence and the space to do the work you love, no matter when that comes, or, it's that simple. Yeah.
And I kind of use a football analogy when I talk about winning. So if you're a footballer, you might love playing football, but without goalposts, it's a bit pointless. So when you hit the ball at the back of the net, that huge feeling of elation, it kind of drives you on or whatever. So what does winning look like for you?
I guess on the external level, I guess on the more kind of shallow level, it would be really good films, lead role. I'd love to play more Americans, just different accents, different characters. On the more kind of, I think the more life level, more internal level, it would definitely be not having acting as my sense of worth, or feeling like I've got to please people all the time or perform, or, being more content with just being me, just that I'm enough and showing up is enough. I still have that thing that a lot of actors, I think, have, we feel we have to do something to fix it.
All of these tortured souls.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a choice of a question here now. So it's up to you which one you want to go for to close off the recording. So choice number 1, your best day ever. Or choice number 2 is the best choice or the most significant choice you made in your life.
Oh, fucking hell. I'll go with the second one. I think it's deeper. I like that. The most significant choice or best choice I've ever made in my life. I'll tell you what it is, actually. Yeah, it would have been that moment when my mum and my granny were begging me to go to therapy when I was 14, and I finally said yes, and I think that changed everything for me. Yeah.
Okay. What did therapy do for you?
It did a lot. Throughout my teens, it helped me navigate everything, and then as an actor, it's changed me massively. I mean, we're our own instrument, and I think the key to it is just getting out of your own way a lot of the time. And I think a lot of us struggle with that, I think anxiety tends to lend itself to artists and actors and everybody, and we're just kind of, we're always kind of getting in our own way. So that has really helped massively. And just constantly learning about yourself is really nice, and it just makes you more understanding, I think, and have more patience. So for me, it's been years of that, and without it, I don't think I probably wouldn't even, I wouldn't be here, I don't think, with Brendan and stuff, not in terms of drastic decisions, but I just wouldn't be the guy I am, I'd probably be more egotistical or running amok doing something, as opposed to this, the appreciation for life,
Yeah. Interesting answer. And I get the impression a little bit, Diarmuid, that you give yourself an awful hard time. You're kind of like, what was that film with Tom Hanks? Was it the Da Vinci Code? These guys that used whip themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, go on. What was it?
The 7 lashes or something, isn't there?
Yeah.
They whipped themselves in the back. Yeah, we had it in Borgia. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe you got into that character a bit too much or something. But I read a book. I must dig it out for you. I have 2 copies of it. My cousin got it for me. But part of it I thought was a bit overdone. But there was a simple thing in it whereby it said, every year the flowers come out again, and every year that the seasons come around again. And in ways, as individuals, we need to accept that life is a bit like stuff, and things just happen anyway. And maybe we need to get out of our own way a little bit too much, and maybe be like the river and just let it flow. Because, I don't know, that's just an observation.
I'd love to read that book.
Yeah.
Fish out the title even on it, and I can check it out. I'd love to see it.
I'm going to text you that later.
Yeah.
Even better, I have 2 copies of it. And you come to West Cork and I give it to you.
Yes, that's the deal.
And you have to stay over and we'll walk on the beach. We'll go for pints and Sullivan's. And
that's the deal.
How about that? Is that okay?
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
You're an amazing man, incredibly talented. Thank you for the privilege of watching you in that movie, for your friendship, for making my son and his project look so good.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean it. It's incredible. And
thank you, Greg, for the privilege of your time, because I find I really always enjoyed any time we're in the back garden, or any time, like, just having conversations with you. You're such a really fascinating human being, to just really talk to. And I always come out with my soul fulfilled after talking to you. So it's really, really lovely to get to do this. It's a lovely, lovely moment.
Yeah,
for me.
Thank you so much, Diarmuid. I mean, sincerely, what a lovely conversation on a nothing Tuesday night. Yeah, good man yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Talk to you again soon.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Love you to bits, man. Take it easy.
Cheers.
UK match now tonight.
Thank you for listening to the Win Happy podcast, which has been brought to you by Fusion Communications. If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to send me an email at greg@fusion.ie. So until next time, take it easy.